noticed, and I feel honored to serve with you all. I want you to know that.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think the voters made great selection. Commissioners, any comments?
Yes, I have something.
Okay.
Yesterday, I attended a board meeting for the Ashland Boyd County Tourism and Convention Center, not as a board member, but as a citizen. I was so impressed with all that Sue Dowdy and her staff do to promote and support Ashland and all of Boyd County. I just want to say thank you and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else?
Mayor, I just want to take a second to echo your comments and say welcome back to this commission. And I also am very honored to serve with all of you. The last term that we served together was not without its challenges. It was hard. I'll say that publicly to anybody who wants to hear it. But I think we weathered that very well. And I think that we had a really good couple of years, and we have a good couple of years ahead of us. I think the best days of Ashland are yet to come. And I'm glad to be up here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I want to echo those sentiments. I'm honored and privileged to be here once again, sitting here today. My late father, Pete Goot, sat here 27 years ago, and so I have to carry that legacy with me. I look forward to the coming year. I believe that we'll get a lot accomplished. We have some challenges, as we always do, but I believe if everyone works together, we can overcome our obstacles and we can see a lot of success. But even though each year is a little different, the role of this office is still the same. The priorities are the same. Services, safety, economic development, and taking care of our citizens and our employees are the main priorities of this job. And so it's a great opportunity and a great responsibility. I'm happy to be here once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Mr. Perkins?
I'm good. I think.
Speechless?
Well, just.
I don't think so.
I think we're all grateful to the citizens, and I will say this: I appreciate each of you, and I appreciate this board for the things that we were able to accomplish in our last term. And I think I agree with Commissioner Clark. We do have a lot to work on, and we're excited to work with you all to make those things happen. So I look forward to that in this term. So thanks.
Thank you, guys. My APD's back there. Got a few representatives. It's National Law Enforcement Week, and Chief, I couldn't be prouder. I thought I said a lot more in the paper, but Carly did a great article, and I appreciate it.
Yes, she did.
Appreciate the paper thinking of our law enforcement people. As I tell you, when I swear guys in and families are here and all, we appreciate the families you come from and that they support you and allow for you to be a law enforcement officer in Ashland. Policemen anywhere. When you get up in the morning, come to work, you put a gun on. I don't know how many people do that. If you're in the service or you're in public safety to the degree of a law enforcement officer, and when you put that gun on, and that means that you're dealing with people that may also have more than you have on, and that's the real problem. And I don't think any town in America is immune from having a serious problem with attacks from within, without our area, and it is exceedingly more dangerous to be a police officer anywhere in America. We all, I think, at different times have tried to express to you we can't really do it on behalf of ourselves as elected officials, but also on behalf of all our citizens. But you keep us safe, you keep our families safe, you keep our schools safe. Every day, I think we should think about our men in blue for all the privileges we have in not only America, but in Ashland, Kentucky. I don't think any of us drive down the streets of Ashland not knowing that we're secured because of our policemen. You're kind of like coaches and school teachers. From my background, you don't get a lot of pats on the back, but people appreciate you're doing a leadership role, and I want you to know your mayor is extremely proud of you every day. If we don't tell you enough, we mean it. We're thinking about it. So God bless all of you that take up the badge for the citizens of Ashland. I appreciate you, those of you here today. City Manager.
Yes, sir. A couple of updates, things the staff has been working on. The shopping cart issue that was raised a couple of meetings ago. We're looking at some changes to the existing ordinance. We're having that staffed, both with staff and local businesses that will primarily affect. So that's a continuing effort. As is, relooking at the procurement ordinance. It's working through the internal staff right now, and expect to have some type of recommendation for the board in the near future. The next thing is I also want to give a special thanks out to everybody on the city staff and those in the community for the recent break that we had on Highway 23 again. Had the potential to be really a lot longer than that was. Appreciate the decision that the board made on the line stop. Was not insignificant. That allowed 5,000 to 7,000 customers not to lose water. And then the late break that we had to fix last week. Chris Pullum, I want to thank you also in my absence for leading that effort, and of course to all the water distribution, city engineer, Mr. Eastwood, and everybody that combined on that. It was just a great team effort, something a lot of people don't see. I'm neglecting the police, Jack Hunter also for all the work that you guys do to seamlessly make that happen. Unfortunately, we're getting really good at that, but I look forward to the day when we're not doing that as much. Want to send out a couple thanks. One to Marathon. You're going to see them in the consent agenda for some donations they made both to the Ashland Fire Department, also the Ashland Police Department. Thank you for that. And then if I could direct your attention up to the screen, is Jerry Adams and Jack Brown, are you here today?
There.
Can you, gentlemen, could you mind stand up, please? These gentlemen came to us from the Ashland Elks, and I believe the genesis for their question to us was they saw some of the volunteer efforts that were going on down at the riverfront, said they'd like to do something to help, and we saw that the park benches, there's potential to expand the park benches into that new walking trail, and they wanted to contribute something tangible to the area. We said we could use some additional park benches down there, and they would like to have their symbol on there. And what you're looking at is that's the exact bench that goes in all of our streetscape across the city. The only difference is that they've got the Ashland Elks on there. This was a free gift from the Ashland Elks to the city. We took up the old bench. We're going to use that somewhere else. I just wanted to publicly thank you. That was a big contribution, and the city really appreciates it. So
Thank you, guys.
Jack and Jerry, Jack in particular, Jack was in school when I was coaching and teaching. His dad was a great city employee for many, many years here. So you got good genes and good lineage there. But I appreciate the Elks. 51 years I've been a member, and that wasn't cheap. I ain't going into that, but that's a Smith Goolsby. You got any new partners this year? You do have some new partners, don't you? You made a new partner.
Anthony Workman, he's one of the young partners in our firm, and Anthony is instrumental in completing this job on behalf of the firm. Brought him with me in case there's anything I can't answer.
We're glad to meet him, and I've never seen anything in the CPA world you couldn't handle. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. I was looking, we're up to 99 pages in this report this year, and I've just flagged a few pages to cover with you. Hopefully you've had opportunity in advance.
We don't pay by page, do we?
Yes, you do.
I'm afraid of that. We can do some little post-it notes in the future.
Yeah. If you'll turn to the page following the table of contents, on our letterhead, it starts our independent auditor's report on pages 2 through 4. And I'm not going to read this, but let me just paraphrase it and say that it states we've made an audit of the financial statements of the city of Ashland. All the required financial statements required by professional standards and generally accepted accounting principles are presented herein. We did conduct our audit in accordance with all the required professional standards. Bottom of page 2, it states that we believe our audit provides reasonable assurance to enable us to express our opinion, which is at the top of page 3. And it states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the governmental activities, business activities, each major fund, and the remaining fund information of the city of Ashland. in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. I won't read through the rest of this with you, but it goes on to state that in accordance with other requirements, there's certain data presented that has been subjected to our audit test, and it's fairly stated also. So this is what is referred to as an unmodified auditor's report. On pages 5, continuing over onto page 16, is what's called management's discussion and analysis. This is where your finance department takes the internal financial information and presents a summary of what they believe to be the important financial factors that occurred during the year. Our only responsibility with respect to this information is to make sure it's not misleading. In other words, they don't contradict what we believe to be true. I would encourage you to read this because it is in layman's terms, but I'm not going to cover that this morning. First page is page 17 of the overall financial statements. 17 and 18 is what we call and is referred to the government-wide financial statements, where the city takes all funds, account groups, and types, puts them on one page to present an overall statement of net position. If you'll turn to page 18, towards the bottom, net position is sort of similar to fund balance, except it's on an accrual basis rather than a cash basis. So at the bottom, you can see the total net position of the city at the end of the year was $52.5 million. That's all assets, all debts, resources, so on and so forth. One thing on this page that really jumps out at me that I'd like to point out, if you look up under liabilities in the right-hand column, you'll see two numbers. One's 15.6 million and one's 52.8 million. Does everybody see those numbers? They total $68 million. That is the combined underfunded pension liability and retirement insurance liability that's assigned to the city of Ashland. So we all know what's happening down in the legislature as we speak. But when I look at that, I think in terms of you couldn't tax everybody in the city of Ashland and come up with $68 million. But that's only our portion. So I point that out just to stress the severity of the decisions that our legislatures are going to have to come to here shortly. And the longer they put it off, the worse it gets. Now, if you'll turn to page 20, we can look at a financial statement, I think, that means a lot more to the commission, because this is on your budgetary basis of accounting. If you look across the top of the page, these names probably mean something: general fund, flood wall fund, so on and so forth. This page does not include the pension liability because it's not in your budgetary basis of accounting. All you budget as far as the pension is what you have to pay in each payday, okay? So on this basis of accounting, your governmental funds close the year on a combined basis $9.7 million to the good. General fund is $6.7 million of that. Then on page 22 is the operating statement on your budgetary basis. General fund on the left, revenues in excess of expenditures for the year, $867,000. Then across the page. So overall, I think a pretty good performance. One thing that's new on this page this year is the tax increment finance fund, which is the Ashland Plaza hotel project, which is being accounted for in a separate fund because of its unusual characteristics and the way the tax revenue has to be accounted for there. And feel free to stop me as we go through this, but obviously I can't cover everything. Page 47, I'm going to jump clear to page 47. I think an important characteristic of any governmental operation is the value of its fixed assets or capital assets. Now remember, you only budget capital assets in the year where you need to purchase them. But in the government-wide financial statements, the value of those get capitalized and depreciated. But on page 47, you can see all the various capital assets of the city. They're broken down between governmental activities and business-type activities. Net of depreciation. So for example, if you look at the top of this page where you see the additions column, in the governmental activities, which is basically everything but water and sewer, you spent $2,062,000 to purchase capital assets during the year. Fire trucks, police cruisers, infrastructure, major repairs, so on and so forth. And then in the business type activities down below, you spent almost $4.7 million. Okay, and remember that once you spend that, that asset is gone. It's been consumed except for financial reporting purposes, but the money you need to repair and replenish those have to come out of current operations. Believe it or not, there's about 15 to 20 pages of this report that deal with pension accounting. It's all required. I definitely don't want to cover it, but it goes into all the various requirements of CERS, both for the current participants, for retirees, a series of disclosures on health insurance. It just, in my opinion, it goes on and on and on, but it is all required information. One thing I did want to point out, you probably remember that you've still got the two old city-sponsored plans. Okay, the utility pension fund and the old police pension fund. And actually this year, and we've talked for several years that we've always financed that basically as pay-as-you-go type operation. But this year, through the budgetary process, you were able to find some additional money. And in the police pension, and I'm clear over on page 70, so you don't need to try to follow me as far as the pages, but the calculated contribution into the old police and fire pension fund by the actuaries was $521,000, and you actually contributed this year $949,000. So $428,000 enables you to help that gradually get out of the hole, assuming you can invest that and get some return on it. So that's a positive thing to stress as far as the pension accounting.
Is it in there how many are still on that
Yes.
plan?
Police and fire 17, utility 24.
Yeah, it's on page 50.
Okay.
So there's 41 retirees or their eligible participants still in those plans. Page 61, I know it would be of interest as far as what's the debt structure of the city. Other than the bonds issued for the Ashland Plaza project this year, there was no additional debt incurred by the city this year. And reductions of outstanding debts a little over $1.8 million. Again, because of the way you're required to account for certain funds, the debts are summarized by governmental and business. And just always remember, business is the utilities. Okay. Again, feel free to stop me if you need to. Page 67, note 13, I just wanted to point this out because it's new requirement this year about how tax abatements work. And again, this deals with the Ashland Plaza Hotel. As that thing progresses, there will be some additional disclosures required. But it describes how the TIF program works, what the city's responsibilities are, and what developers' responsibilities are. I feel like I'm rushing, but I'm sure you don't mind that. The last thing I want to cover is page 82, which is your general fund comparison to the budget. It's probably the number one most important statement in the audit. The general fund obviously is the backbone of the city's operations. Page 82 shows the various revenue sources into the city as compared to the budget. For example, combined taxes, about $7.6 million. Your occupational licenses, a little over $10 million, which some of that's the payroll tax. So on and so forth. And then starting on page 83, your expenditures by department. And as you all know, within these departments and subcategories, there are numerous accounts where you really drill down to line item expenses. All departments stayed fairly well within their budget this year. As far as findings or internal control matters, and it's been quite a few years since we've been able to say this, but on page 95 there was one finding dealing with competitive bidding, but this is actually a carryover from last year, and because of the way the money was expended, it straddled 2 years. So it's really almost a repeat finding, even though it's a current finding because it happened in the current year, but the events that led up to it actually occurred in the last fiscal year. The city manager has responded on the pages subsequent to the finding as far as the corrective action that is planned or planned to occur or that has already occurred. And then the city manager's also responded to carryover finding. We definitely appreciate all the help that Tony and Michelle give us. They actually put this together. It's only up to us to render the opinion that it's fairly presented. So, and it's a big job. They do, as you well know, submit this to the Government Finance Officers Association to get it certified as being compliant. And probably most of the cities in Kentucky do not go to that extra step. And to get that certificate of achievement basically means that your finance department knows what they're talking about. So
We believe that fully. Mr. Grubb, Shell, thank you very much for every year what you do on this.
Okay,
And
thank
Kelly
you.
Galloway, thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Lane. We'll take these home and study tonight. I've marked the pages. I marked the exact pages for sure to make sure I hit those. Okay, at this point, we're at public participation, and if you have something you'd like to bring before the Board of Commissioners, we would ask you to identify yourself, your address, and tell us your issue or concern, and keep your comments within 5 minutes or less, and We'll take no personal attacks on anybody at any time. Just keep that in mind. Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Welcome, Paul.
My name's Paul Reynolds, own PG Reynolds Properties, 29th and Central. And I just wanted to talk about the road construction. The company's insurance paid so much money, less $2,960. And that was after I contacted a international structural engineering company. And there were other means they should have used other than a hoe ram. They could have used an air drill and what's called Blue Star powder. You mix it up, pour it in the hoe, and it expands, and you just scrape it up with a bucket.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not just that, but they hit a water main and blew dirt, gravel all over, I mean, clear across my parking lot. I cleaned up myself. But they sent the balance, and I'm not sure what board, but it was denied the payment of $2,960. And I couldn't understand after being in business almost 29 years and you know.
So was it like a depreciation thing, or is it just one of your
Well, they
claims?
just said that they think that was the part the city should have paid. Like when they hit the water line, they didn't know if it was too deep or not deep enough or not lined out enough or whatever. They wasn't going to pay for the cleanup of this, you know, well, several of them.
Right.
They tried to went back and forth for a year. So.
Okay.
And I said, well, I'm not, you know, it's kind of hard to talk to this one person and call this one and this one. I said, I don't know. I said, why don't you two just call each other and work it out?
Yeah.
I said, I've been a general contractor for 30 years, and I've used Blue Star. I took down the viaducts here in Ashland, helped build the viaducts back in Ashland. I mean, the company may not even know about this stuff, but
The pond in Central Park.
yeah, but
Another lifetime.
It just, so you'll know where this stands from our standpoint. Our contract with the contractor required them to indemnify us for any liability. His claim was submitted to their contractor, I believe Westfield, if I'm not mistaken, and you reached a settlement agreement with them and signed an agreement with them. To the extent that anybody claimed there was any damage from us that was not the responsibility of Westfield, we submitted that to our carrier. Our carrier rejected that claim, did not feel like the city had any liability, and that's where it stood.
Well, actually, whoever was the inspector over this company should have stopped them from using that hoe ram, because it's, I know under state law, you can use that hoe ram only so close to a structure. So now they was probably 12 feet away from my building and knocking pictures off my wall. So
Again, the claim was investigated by both Westfield Insurance Company and by the Kentucky League of Cities.
Right.
You settled with Westfield, which was the
Right.
insurer for our contractor. Our liability, in the League of Cities' opinion, was only derivative from whatever the contractor did. We didn't have any liability for anything on our own. So any additional claim was rejected, and to the extent it was submitted to the city, it was my recommendation that it not be paid, both because of the determination of liability by both insurers, and also because the amount of the claim was, in my opinion, not sufficiently documented or supported. So that was the recommendation we made.
well, I'm in disagreement. I mean, I think, again, after 29 years of taking care of things I probably shouldn't even have to take care of, I did anyway, but that just, and if I'd brought the or structural engineering company in and had their write-up, which I've got an engineer that lives there and has been there for 18 years, that probably would have been suit for a whole building. So,
Well, one of the reasons we pay premiums to these insurers are for them to handle those claims, both in terms of paying claims after we paid our premiums, but also for them to adjust those claims.
yeah.
So that's sort of who it pitches to, and I know you had your conversations with both insurers, and,
Right.
and you know, that's the way it played out.
Yeah, well, no, No, you're the agent for your insurance company. Well, didn't want to do anything from the get-go. So it went back to the
Well, and then that was
contract.
based on their investigation and their determination of both liability and damages. It wasn't like they just said, we're not going to do anything.
Right.
They opened a claim, they interviewed you, they received materials,
Right.
and they made a determination.
But on my point is, if I came to your house and dumped limestone all over your yard and then hole rammed and busted your brick in your house, you don't think that I wouldn't be fully liable?
Well, I think
Or
if you weren't
somebody.
satisfied with the adjudication of your claim, you shouldn't have signed a release and accepted that payment. You should have proceeded to court.
That was from them. I said, and they
That's
said,
what your remedies, your alternatives are accept their determination
Right.
or dispute it and go to court, and you chose to accept it.
well, that was just from them. They said the other part would have to come from the city.
Well,
So, I don't know, I'm not an attorney, I didn't.
Well, they're usually always going to say that.
But I just think,
Get
you
the
know, I
rest
didn't
from the
cause
city.
any of this,
Yeah.
but yet I'm left to have to pay for, you know, the rest. And what I'm asking, or what I asked, was only to make repair and not rebuild my building. So, I mean, that's not, I think that's not much to ask for.
It sounds fair enough. We have to go on legal counsel.
Right.
Whether it's $29 or $2,900,
Right,
the
right.
taxpayers have to pay it, and we answer to them, and we have to follow our legal advice.
Right. But, well, and then on the good part,
There is got to be a
D&L
good part.
came in and poured the concrete. Excellent job. And Mountain Enterprises, the blacktop. I said, this is the first time in my life I've ever seen somebody come out with a 4-foot level and level off a sidewalk to a blacktop. And I said, you know,
When-
when
and
we
you know-
use the transit to do all that, but
from our standpoint, there wouldn't be much point in us paying premiums and taking out insurance
Yeah.
if we were going to have, say, well, when an insurance company determines that we're not liable and they're not going to pay, we said, well, let's pay it anyway. There wouldn't be a whole lot of sense in us
Right.
paying those premiums
Yeah.
and having that insurance.
yeah, I've worked with 7 different insurance companies for a long time, or still do. But, yeah, they try to pass the buck back and forth, and hopefully they get tired of, or whoever will just drop it and say, forget about it. But I just thought, well, no, I need to bring this up to you all, and let you,
Well, thank you
Talk
for bringing,
about it.
thanks for bringing it to our attention.
We hear you, and I'm sorry about
Yeah.
that difference, but it's kind of, council's explained it pretty well, and
Right.
we get, I couldn't tell you the number of calls I get in a month anyway,
Oh,
not
sure.
just in a week, from people in neighborhoods that think cities should pay for all this work
Right,
that
right.
a contractor did or
Right.
should have done, and not city people, it's somebody else.
well,
so-
it's like well, I built water tanks and water pump stations and water mains, and I had to have a water truck there every day spraying the limestone dust, broom trucks or broom, you know, people cleaning up all the time. But it's, they were state inspectors there that made that
Sure.
happen. So, come Friday, the guys were gone. I set barricades up with the police department on Saturdays and Sundays, because I work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And signs would be down, but, well, I just, you know, I just thought, well, that's just, doesn't sound right. So, I wanted to bring that up. And then I see a lot of positive things happening
We hope.
in the
We hope
city
more.
since the new board and everyone's here. And well, after 28 years, you notice things, and road changes and.
And you've done a lot of contracting in the city.
So, yeah, and I hope to see a whole lot more. So,
We do too.
I appreciate you.
We appreciate your
Thank you.
business in the
Thanks,
city.
Paul.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Paul. Thanks a lot.
I'm Vicki Franklin, so if I'm loud, excuse me, I'm hearing impaired. I live at 608 26th Street. I just bought it on the 31st. I was unaware that the homeless squatted there. I have cleaned up human defecation. I have cleaned up a 5-gallon bucket full of glass. I have a service dog. I am single, and like I said, I'm hearing impaired. I have pictures of trash all over. Since I've been there, I have put up cameras. I have people traveling through my yard day and night. And I'm pretty upset.
Yeah.
If I'd have known, I would have never bought the place. Because with being hearing impaired and my safety,
Yeah.
I would have never bought it. I have cleaned up the front, and I have picked up a bag, a great big green bag of garbage. Thank God I cleaned that up. I did fix the fence because where they were going through from my yard, I closed that off. And like I said, I got the shovel and I cleaned up human defecation. And I know my friend that I had bought the place from, she had said before they talked about closing the alley. This part where I am living, it's not an alley. I mean, it's part of, you know, the city, but there's no sense in nobody having to come through my yard, basically. And like I said, with me being here impaired, I am going to get it pretty. On the other side of the fence, I did call the city because it's nasty. There's mattresses laying. The neighbors have told me that there was tents lined up. I'd be willing to clean it up because I like clean. And I did buy it, and I want to have a nice place. That's all I have to say.
Well-
I hope I'm not talking out of turn.
Yeah, oh, you're not, you're fine. So 60826, so you're talking about, it's basically what we call a paper alley behind you because it's never been paved? Is that right? Yeah, so they're probably, are they camping there?
Yeah, they have,
Yeah.
and right behind my building. I have pictures.
Yeah.
But it's really ugly, disgusting.
Okay, if you want to, Chris Pullum in the back is, code enforcement's part of his job. Police are here, and when they hear reports from citizens like that, they'll kind of, patrols will look a little closer to those areas, right, Chief? To try to stir them out of there.
Yeah. Plus, the homeless have been coming up on my porch, they're using my address.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh God, what did I buy?
Yeah. Well, ma'am, none of us would want to deal with that either. We don't expect you to have to deal with it. So we'll do all we can. If you either get those pictures to Mr. Pullum, he's back in the back, and he can make copies, or you can give them to them, one or the other, and we'll start monitoring up there to see if we can help you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because, you know, it's scary. It's scary for anybody, but being here in bed,
Sure it
that
is.
makes it worse.
Sure it is.
You know, so, but like I said, I hope I didn't knock out of
Thank you for
No,
coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Same
Come
here.
back.
Please do. Thank you, ma'am. We will try to help you.
Thank you.
All right.
I even brought the glass, but a 5-gallon.
Not necessary.
No, come on.
We
It's
we
clean.
believe you. We believe your story.
It's awful.
Day. Todd Young with the neighborhood, 2516 Carter Avenue. Just wanting to know where we were at with the concession in the Central Park.
Mr.
Pullum?
Hey, Chris, do you have Mr. Pullum, do you have an update on the concession in Central Park, the bid for that?
Only that Catherine Utzinger, I believe, is pulling the committee together to review the proposals that we received, and if one is selected, we'll move forward, if not, we'll probably reopen it and advertising it. So there's no way forward at this point.
Yeah, so how many quotes did you get?
I believe we have 2 proposals.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that we're looking at a April, May, June, so if we award something, it needs to be in time for that place to be put into order. So I know we've got a timeline we're going to stick with, so,
I think Catherine's trying to schedule for some time.
Okay.
Next week.
okay, so they'll probably call you in.
Okay.
Talk to you. Thanks for coming, and thanks for being interested in that.
Last but not least, maybe. Bernard Onan, 2720 Forest Avenue. I'm going to talk about paper alleys for a minute here at the end, but water infrastructure and water line maintenance replacement is obviously a critical issue for the city of Ashland. And first of all, I want to commend the mayor, commission, city officials for your willingness to address these issues and to look for cost-effective solutions. Unfortunately, you've been dealt a challenge that will require diligence and difficult decisions moving forward. I think that'd probably be an understatement, wouldn't it? Toward this challenge, I'd like to offer a couple of suggestions that might assist with finding solutions. First, the city of Ashland is unique in that we are represented by very influential and intelligent senators and congressmen. Senator Mitch McConnell, Congressman Hal Rogers probably have as much power as any two individuals in Congress. Senator Paul and Congressman Massey have served on committees that have oversight of infrastructure and water resources. The potential use of federal resources should be explored as quickly as possible through these representatives. One of the hot topics of probable, and I say probable, bipartisanship agreement in Washington has and will continue to be infrastructure. As a city, we need to get all of our congressional delegations together and involved in possibly assisting our city. Secondly, this water issue needs to be viewed as an opportunity. We can market Ashland and its issues as the perfect demonstration project for a federal infrastructure study and pilot. From what I understand, the water issues we face are the same facing many communities. If we could get federal resources, for example, grants, CDBG additional monies, earmarks to test cost-effective solutions, for example, lining older pipes versus excavating and replacing pipes, then we can be the leader in solving these water problems throughout the nation. Again, this is where the support of our congressional delegation would be crucial. Finally, as a member of the City Planning Commission for many years, I've been involved in several requests for alley closures. In fact, I heard an implied request just a minute ago. Knowing the potential for these alleys for utility easements, I have been opposed to such closures. In fact, I think there's one on the consent agenda in which you'll see our denial. With many yet to be determined solutions to the city water issues, I would recommend that the city refrain from any alley closures except in unusual circumstances as part of water and utility infrastructure strategy. And I think that message needs to be communicated throughout the city. Our board needs to be aware of that. Everybody in the city should be aware of that. I would think that these alleys are a resource that the city should keep and that they will be utilized as a more cost-effective way of rerouting certain water lines. To me, if we could get the water line that's running on 23 into an alley somewhere, that's going to save us a bunch of money. I know it's going to cost a lot to do the same, though. So thank you for the opportunity to listen to my concerns, and I look forward to continuing to serve the city of Ashland in any capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bernard.
Comments? Anyone else like to appear before the commission? Appreciate you being here. Old business, item A.
An ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute task order 2018-02 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and HDR Engineering, Inc. regarding the Phase 2 Stormwater MS4 compliance report in the amount of $15,080.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Item B.
An ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and approving change order number 3 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and Engineering Associates, PSC, regarding their proposals for drafting and design work completed in 3 phases for the new water distribution and sewer maintenance facilities located at Mill Street and 28th Street by increasing Phase 3 in the amount of $8,277.50 for permit work for the Department of Engineering and Utilities Divisions of Water Distribution and Wastewater Collection.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Item C.
An ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract between the City of Ashland and Rumpke of Kentucky, Inc. for the removal and disposition of sludge from the City of Ashland wastewater treatment plant and water treatment plant for a period of 1 year for the Department of Public Services and Utility Operations.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Item D.
An ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and NewTek Systems, Inc. for the installation and implementation of security cameras and a monitoring system for the City of Ashland's Mill Street facility in the amount of $36,558 for the Department of Public Services and Utility Operations.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
The only question I have on that one is it remote monitoring available as well with that system?
Yes.
Okay, so is the main monitoring system will be on site for management, but then you'll also have the ability to access it here?
Yes, this system is not for alarming whenever someone comes in, but it's cameras, and we'll be able to access that from iPads, and the police department can access it.
Okay. And do we have a system at the garage,
Do we have a video system at the garage?
like on the yard?
I don't recall. Jack, do you know?
And-
We do?
And it's the
Internal
same-
and external? Just internal?
I think we made sure that, I know when I came in.
I'll
office
confirm.
Over
There you
the
go.
fire. Get the cameras up.
I thought we put up cameras.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Any other old business? Consent agenda.
A resolution of the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting, authorizing, and approving the course of action presented by the city manager on the items appearing on the consent agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of City Commissioners of January 10th, 2019.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
I need to have, we need to look at number 7.
Okay,
And this is for the Ashland in Motion Gravy Bowl.
okay.
Uh,
Is that the one Miss Perkins won?
Yeah.
Did she win that?
She did. We have a
had the-
winner in our midst.
I think you had the popular beer gravy.
It was. You mean sawmill gravy?
Sawmill.
That was the McClure's gravy.
That's
It was
right.
McClure's
McClure's.
gravy.
I think her husband makes everything, and she stands in front of it with a little sign.
She salts it. Yeah.
Mayor, part of this request is to waive the fees, the city fees for the use of that facility. And I talked to Commissioner Steen and just sort of have a little bit of an issue with waiving those fees because I think we run ourselves into the risk that if we do it once, we're going to have to do this over and over and over again, and that could run into some hefty fees for the city. So if you guys are okay, I would like to, I don't know the correct action here. Basically, I'm fine with all of it except for the
Remove
fees.
Item 7 from the consent agenda, then take your vote on the consent agenda, and then consider item 7 separately.
Okay,
And be considered that they be allowed to serve wine and spirits and beer at the facility on that daytime group.
yeah, I'm okay with all of it except for us waiving those fees. So I'd like to make the motion that we remove number 7 and vote on it separately, please.
Second.
Any further discussion? I'd like to say this, that to me, it kind of falls in the category of a couple other requests we've had earlier where and Ashland Motion is kind of a arm of us. I mean, it is kind of considered us, if you do your schedule for the next year, and we're in January, so when we come at budget time, if you come to our committee meetings on contributions and gifts, where we can take a look at your budget and you have a fee like that and you request it as a contribution as part of our budget review. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? And any other thing that you put on that would constitute pulling some major money away from you for profit when you're a nonprofit trying to do great things in downtown Ashland. So that would be the time to kind of put some things together between now and then, and then after that for the fall, summer and fall, that committee could look at.
And Mayor, just a reminder, and also for the citizens, so the mayor and commissioners by ordinance adjusted the gifts and contributions ordinance a couple of months ago, and basically those applications are due by, I believe, the 31st of January, and this is for fiscal year starting in July and going through the following July, so July 19 to July 20, 2020. The gifts and contributions, we do have a subcommittee that's set up on that. They'll review all of those at the same time frame as the budget, and then they'll make recommendations for y'all's approval as part of the budget process.
Okay.
So that we are catching up on a lot of these. I think the Human Rights Commission and the Martin Luther King recognition falls into the same category. So there's some some guys, some organizations. We think we've notified everybody. If we have not notified somebody that falls into that category, please let us know. We sent out, I think, about 30 letters, and I know the Human Rights Commission, we're looking to see if we did an oversight with them by accident.
Okay, thanks, Manager. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Then item 7 is a separate item.
All right, so let's
vote
go
on
back
the
and then
consent
I think there was a
Vote on
motion to
consent.
approve the consent agenda.
Yeah,
In a second.
we
If
just
there's any-
voted that.
Absent 7, if there's any further
Absent
discussion.
7. Okay, so as it now reads 1 to 6, motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Now-
like sign.
Now we can look at item number 7 on its own.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess my motion is I would like to approve this minus the waiving the fee.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? And I do think it's important for consistency that we get a heck of a lot of requests. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Any other consent items?
Going over this real quick, that's not for the current loan program that's being offered with applications available in your office, right? This is from it's.
Designated $25,000 for Trophy House. The extra $75,000 has been advertised again. And then those applications will be accepted till February 1st.
How many
Go through the process again.
How many applicants did you have in this first
We
round?
had 5.
Okay, and what was the committee that helped decide who got these
It was
loans?
a business growth committee. It included persons that Mayor Gilmore had chosen,
Who-
representatives from finance, city manager, Mr. Moore, and citizen participation also.
So you had a diverse group of people helping make those decisions, okay? And this loan program, what's the loan program? Is it just 25,000? Is there any requirements or?
Oh, yeah.
It's not necessarily 25,000. You have to prove to the committee that the money will be used to produce more jobs within city limits, and it's geared towards minority and women-owned businesses.
Commissioner, it's for a capital expenditure,
Correct.
which will produce jobs. In other words, we're not loaning them money to pay to an employee, but to make a capital expenditure for equipment or something that will then be utilized to have another employee. In this particular case, a particular item of equipment will be brought to be used in that business, and a new employee will be hired to operate that equipment. So this fit perfectly the criteria for these loans, because
And the other question I have is, the dollars that you're providing for this loan don't come from city funds directly. These are federal dollars that flow through the city.
Community development block grant funds.
So the money we're loaning is actually federal money passed through for us to use for purposes just like this.
Correct.
Thank
And
you
it
so
meets
much.
all the federal requirements.
Okay, and which are pretty strict.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
There's one point of clarity where I thought you were going with that. We had 2 different loan programs. So one was with city funds on last year, and then this, everything that Ms. Woolery just said to you about the CDBG, spot on, but we had a very similar program used with city
Right.
funds last year.
Right, and I just wanted to clarify on the record that we were using CDBG funds. Yes.
Those applications are in our office, if anyone's interested. They do have till February 1st to submit an application.
Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Item D.
A resolution in the city of Ashland, Kentucky, accepting the Ashland Planning Commission's recommendation to deny a petition to close an unimproved alley between 608 26th Street and the former tannery property.
This is the one that she just talked about.
This is the lady who was
Yeah.
here, and the recommendation was that application be denied, I think, based on possible adverse effects on future development.
I think, Mayor, what you said is important. I think we've got code enforcement, and we've got police that can assist that
Yeah.
property owner, and I take what the Planning Commission says seriously, and I also agree with Mr. Onan that we may have opportunities there. We would hate to close that property off if we need it for water or
Absolutely.
utilities.
The few paper alleys, I haven't analyzed the last few years, but I know when I've been on the commission before, as mayor and a city commissioner, that we use that very tightly, and there's some neighborhoods in Ashland that the neighbors even come in and say, what's this space behind us? My fence ends here, my neighbor's fence ends here, what is that there? Nothing could get through there at this point in time, and so you look at it, you get petitions signed by everybody in that neighborhood that, yeah, they'd like to see it closed. There's no need to get through there, and there are rare situations where that is the case, so you run down the middle of the alley and you give this property owner half of it and this property owner half. It goes on their deed. They got to pay the additional taxes, whatever they may be, minuscule. It's just some grass and soil. But anyway, it is something, and it's another, great use of planning commission, who are citizen representatives, to make recommendations on things like that. So you do, and closing that alley up there, at least at my vantage point, with the potential development that can move up Greenup Avenue and over towards Mill Street, where we built a new building. If you closed it, would not change one thing with the problem we have going on. We need to take care of that problem regardless. If it was a closed alley, it'd be the same difference.
Mayor,
We probably need a
to make
motion to either approve or disapprove, and then discussion, just to be technically correct.
So moved.
Well, motion to support the planning commission's recommendation to deny the
A motion
petition.
from Marty.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
I wasn't trying to cut off the discussion, I was just saying that.
Well, let me tell you, you do. You are the city attorney.
In his defense, I'm over here saying, do we need a motion before we discuss this? So I apologize. Trying to
Sometimes
follow the rules, Mayor.
Just remember, Council Moore, we will probably stop in mid-sentence when you say that before we need your services.
Don't say that, I might go mad with power.
I don't think so. Okay, a discussion item relative to right-of-way to allow Fields Flowers to erect a, I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead. I don't take your position. I was an English teacher, I like to read stuff, okay? You go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's a request for a limited use of right-of-way to allow Fields Flowers to erect a freestanding sign to encroach 12 feet from the curb at 1516 Central Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, we've all looked at that, and, one of the oldest businesses in Ashland, and
Your
any
new
discussion?
location looks fantastic.
We have a ordinance drawn up. The motion is to have an ordinance drawn up at the next meeting to, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Any other new business?
There is one matter before we get to that, if you don't care.
Go ahead.
The mayor has made the following tentative appointments and reappointments to boards, and those are submitted to the Board of Commissioners for consent. To the Ashland Housing Authority, Mark A. Willis of Scope Towers, Apartment 613, 3131 Winchester Avenue, Ashland, and Bernice Henry of 2600 Seminole Avenue have been nominated to the Ashland Housing Authority Board by the mayor, and it's submitted for the consent of the commission, so we would entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove those appointments.
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Likewise, the mayor has nominated for appointment or reappointment to the Ashland Ethics Committee Tom Lynch of 1003 Russell Street, Ashland, and Lisa Henson of 3227 Short Street, Ashland. And again, I would ask for a motion either to approve or disapprove those appointments.
To which boards?
Ethics Commission.
Ethics.
Move we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
And then finally, the mayor has made the following nominations for appointment to the Commission on Human Rights. Melinda Jones, 2928 Bath Avenue, Ashland, Kentucky. Tyler Branham, 4631 Hickory Street, Ashland, Kentucky. Al Baker, 3725 Greenbrier Road, Ashland. And Kelvin Nelson, 3018 Central Avenue. And again, I would ask for a motion either to approve or disapprove those nominations.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Some of those are reappointments, some of them are new. We're trying to get new blood, rotating people and so forth. So I appreciate your concurrence. And as you know, some of you submitted some names, some of those to me, and you can do that at any time. I mean, I basically go with your all's recommendations.
There's also, Mayor, of note, we do have applications if citizens are interested in serving on any commissions. There's a 2-page application. You can come and provide your background. That'll be something the mayor will consider for future appointments of mayor and commissioners.
Absolutely. Any other new business?
I just have a discussion item I wanted to add. I was looking at some information just to get for cost of legislation that we're enacting and financial impact. And something I came across was something that state legislatures do. It's called a fiscal note, and they attach these statements to any legislation proposed before the board. And a lot of times we get that internally, but a lot for most of the citizens, they can't see what we see sometimes in our internal notes. And the fiscal note is a statement of the estimated fiscal impact of a legislation or a legislative proposal. Request is always linked to a particular version of a bill, a draft bill, or a bill amendment. It's basically provides a reliable estimate of the impact of a bill or resolution that will have on the city revenues or expenditures. An ordinance with the fiscal impact may increase or reduce expenditures, increase or decrease the revenues of an existing tax, change personnel requirements, affect levels of service, impose or shift a tax to a new base, or change the funding of an existing program. In all of these situations, the Commission will need fiscal notes to decide on an ordinance merits, to assess its affordability, and to plan for the future. Fiscal notes also enable other interested parties to weigh in a more informed manner on the legislative process. And they also allow the media to understand and report accurately on pending legislation that we are looking at. So I ask city manager, I ask for a recommendation that the city manager consider with staff requiring the finance department to prepare fiscal notes on the legislation brought before the commission so it can be considered, and that all fiscal notes be published either through the city website with the agenda, and also fiscal notes include long-term projections financially and be revised as needed so we're aware of what's going on. I ask for a motion to consider that. Not actual ordinance, just for review.
Well, are you saying you don't know enough, or you want?
I think it's more for the public to know. That's what I was saying. We get a lot of great information from the finance department internally. It's just maybe a quick summary financially that it's also available. Sometimes we know things that we think the public knows, and a lot of times they don't. And we also want to make sure that the radio, newspapers, TV get the information correctly financially. And sometimes they get that, sometimes they don't. But just for something to be considered.
I certainly can see where the legislature, of course, they've got LRC that, you know, constantly writing everything. They don't say a whole lot. It's all written for them and everything like that. But I have no problem with it. I think we pretty well do that.
We'd be glad to study that and see the pros and cons to that. We'll work with finance and the department heads. If you could give us the information, Commissioner, we'll definitely do the staff work on that.
Yeah, what it all entails.
Yeah.
I want to look at it through
Well,
and through.
it would be something the staff would put together.
Before I vote on it.
Oh, well, that's the whole point. Yeah.
I want to look at this, because it's the first I heard.
Well, we'll just ask the city manager to look into that and come back with something for us to look at.
We'll do.
Okay. Deal. Executive session.
Yes. I would like to add one personnel issue to the executive session.
I think that we would entertain a motion then to go into an executive session for one, to discuss pending litigation, and two, to discuss a individual personnel matter.
Okay.
So moved.
A motion to do that.
So moved.
We'll go to executive session. Only two items will be discussed: pending legislation and a individual personnel matter. No action will be taken in executive session, and we may or may not do anything. We come back out other than adjourn. You're welcome to wait, but we appreciate that you're here.
Yeah.
Thank you all.